Elijah, the prophet of fire and miracles that defied kings and gods. Sounds like the plot of an epic movie, right? But this story is not fiction, it's real, and it happened thousands of years ago. Today we are going to talk about Elijah, a prophet who with unwavering faith in God challenged kings, confronted prophets of false gods, and witnessed miracles that left the world speechless. Elijah was not just a man of faith, he was a man of fire. Literally, a man who prayed and saw fire descend from heaven. But his life was also full of challenges. Fleeing to save himself from a ruthless king and queen, living in the desert depending on ravens for food, and standing face to face against an entire system of idolatry. Did you know that Elijah also witnessed one of the first resurrections recorded in the Bible? God used him to bring a desperate widow's son back to life. These are just some of the reasons why his story remains so impactful and relevant even today. And do you know what's the most incredible thing about all this? That the story of Elijah has so much to teach us today. His courage, his trust in God, and his willingness to stand firm, even when he was alone, are powerful lessons for us. In this video, we will explore the most impactful moments of his life, his confrontation with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, the miracle of the oil and flour, and his spectacular ascent to heaven in a chariot of fire. So if you have ever felt like the world is against you, or that your faith is being tested, this story will fill you with hope. Ready? Join me on this journey through the life of Elijah. In a time when the people of Israel had fallen into idolatry and spiritual chaos, ruled by King Ahab and his feared wife Jezebel, God raised up a seemingly ordinary man, Elijah. His mission was not easy. Before a king who had built temples for Baal, the god of fertility and rain, Elijah had to announce something unthinkable, a drought that would paralyze the entire kingdom. With a courage that could only come from God, Elijah stood before Ahab and declared, "As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, before whom I stand, there shall be neither dew nor rain these years except by my word." 1 Kings 17:1. This announcement was a direct blow to the heart of Israel's idolatry. Baal, the supposed god of the weather, would be powerless to bring rain. Only Yahweh had that power. Elijah's bravery was not only shown in what he said, but also in how he acted afterward. He knew that proclaiming the drought would put his life in danger. Jezebel, infamous for persecuting and murdering God's prophets, would surely seek to kill him. But Elijah did not fear. God led him to a special place, the brook of Cherith, where he would experience divine provision in an extraordinary way. For months, Elijah lived in solitude, depending on a daily miracle. Ravens, unclean animals, brought him bread and meat every morning and evening, and while to many this way of surviving might seem strange or even humiliating, Elijah understood something crucial. God is faithful to his promises. Even in the most inhospitable desert, he takes care of his servants. However, the trials did not end there. Over time, the brook of Cherith dried up. To anyone, this might have seemed like the end of hope. What would he do now? Had God's plan failed? But no, God already had the next step prepared. Sending Elijah to Zarephath, a city outside of Israel, was a reminder that God's reach is not limited to just one people or place. At this point, it is important to highlight something. Elijah was not a superhero. He was a man with emotions, doubts, and fears like any of us. But what made him different was his willingness to obey, even when he didn't fully understand the plan. Elijah's courage before King Ahab and during his time in the wilderness leaves us with a powerful lesson. Obedience to God will not always be easy, but it will always be rewarded. When circumstances seem impossible, we can trust that God will provide, even if that means sending ravens to feed us or opening new doors at the most unexpected moments. Few stories in the Bible are as epic as the one that took place on Mount Carmel. Picture this scene, a single prophet of God, Elijah, standing before 450 prophets of Baal, surrounded by a people divided between truth and idolatry. This showdown was not just a battle of faith, it was an open challenge to prove who the true God was. Elijah started the day with a question that would echo in the ears of everyone present. How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal is God, follow him. 1 Kings 18:21. It was a call to make a decision, something many had avoided out of fear or convenience. The people said nothing, remaining silent, unable to decide for themselves. Then Elijah proposed a challenge. Both sides would prepare a sacrifice, but neither would light the fire. Instead, they would pray to their respective gods, and the God who answered by sending fire would be recognized as the true one. The people, intrigued by the spectacle, agreed. The prophets of Baal went first. From morning until noon, they danced, shouted, and cut themselves with knives, hoping their God would answer. But nothing happened. Elijah, in a moment of irony, even mocked them, saying, "Shout louder! Maybe he's busy or sleeping." Despite their desperate efforts, Baal's altar remained untouched. When Elijah's turn came, everything changed. He repaired the Lord's altar using 12 stones to represent the tribes of Israel, reminding the people of their covenant with God. Then he did something unexpected. He ordered that water be poured over the sacrifice until everything was soaked and surrounded by a trench full of water. This was not only to demonstrate the difficulty of the challenge, but to make it clear that the fire to come would not be of human origin. Elijah knelt and prayed a simple but powerful prayer. "Answer me, Lord, so that this people may know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back to you." 1 Kings 18:37. Suddenly fire fell from heaven and consumed not only the sacrifice, but also the wood, the stones, and even the water in the trench. The people, seeing this, fell face down, shouting, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" It was a moment of total surrender and repentance. The confrontation on Mount Carmel leaves us with a powerful lesson. When God acts, He does not do so halfway. This event not only demonstrated His power, but also showed His desire for His people to return to Him. Elijah's story culminates in one of the most astonishing and unique events in the Bible, his ascension to heaven in a chariot of fire. This moment, filled with symbolism and power, marked the end of his ministry on earth, but also left an eternal legacy. Elijah knew his time on earth was coming to an end. Alongside his successor Elisha, he took one last journey, visiting significant places like Bethel, Jericho, and the Jordan River. Finally, after crossing the Jordan, which parted miraculously when Elijah struck the waters with his cloak, the moment arrived. Suddenly, a chariot of fire, drawn by horses of fire, appeared, and Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind, without experiencing death. His mantle fell to the ground, symbolizing that his ministry would now continue through Elisha. Elijah's life teaches us profound lessons. His courage, faith, and complete dependence on God are examples of how to face the most difficult moments. In the end, Elijah was not just a prophet of fire and miracles. He was a man who walked so closely with God that he was taken directly into His presence. If this story inspires you, share it, subscribe to the channel, and join the conversation in the comments. God is still looking for men and women with faith like Elijah's.